By the time you found out, the story was already everywhere. Your closest friends had heard it. Your colleagues had a version. Some of your family had received a tearful call. It was told with precision and calibrated detail. The story described someone unrecognizable to you, that someone was supposed to be you, and you were the last person in the room to hear it. A smear campaign is a deliberate, premeditated effort to destroy a person's reputation, executed by disclosing distorted, selective, or fabricated information to their social network. It is not venting. It is not grief. It is a strategic operation with specific objectives: your isolation, your discrediting, and the perpetrator's positioning as the victim. It is abuse with an audience, and that audience is the weapon. Here is what we are walking through today: how the smear campaign is architected, the timing, the target selection, the narrative construction, why partial truths are more effective than outright lies, who gets recruited as messengers, and how. Why defending yourself publicly almost always makes things worse, and what the evidence shows about how reputations recover when the person running the campaign finally reveals their own pattern. Most people assume the smear campaign begins after the relationship ends. It does not. In most cases, the narrative is seeded weeks or months before the discard. While you are still in the relationship, still trusting, they are telling their version of your story while you share a home, a bed, a life. By the time you find out, the groundwork is complete. The jury was seated before there. The most powerful structural advantage in any social narrative is being first. The person who tells the story first sets the frame through which all subsequent information gets filtered. If they reach your friends first, with your volatility and their suffering, every time you speak, you are processed through that frame. Your hurt confirms your instability. Your clarity sounds like defensiveness. First mover advantage in reputation is nearly impossible. The campaign typically begins with the people whose opinion matters most to you. Your closest mutual friends, your siblings, sometimes your parents. Not by coincidence, these are the people whose defection will hurt you most, destabilize you most, and remove the support network you need during recovery. Your inner circle is targeted first because losing them costs the most, and the manipulator has held your secrets the entire time. The most effective smear is not built on pure fabrication. It is built on partial truths, real events, real moments of your struggle, real things you said and did, stripped of context and reframed to mean something they were never meant to mean. Your grief becomes evidence of instability. Your anger becomes proof of danger. Your boundaries become controlling behavior. The facts are technically accurate. The victim narrative is the emotional engine of the smear campaign. They were quietly suffering for months. They gave everything they had. They tried to hold it together. They stayed longer than they should, out of love. Now, finally, they are getting out. This performance is so compelling precisely because it is unverifiable, emotionally resonant, and structured so that anyone who questions it appears callous. Everything you ever confided, your childhood wounds, your past relationships, your mental health history, your insecurities, is now ammunition in a narrative being told to people who care about you. This is one of the most specific violations of the smear campaign. They did not just attack you. They used the parts of yourself you trusted them with to build the attack. Intimacy became infrastructure. Flying monkeys are individuals recruited, consciously or not, to extend the smear campaign's reach. They carry messages, they monitor your behavior and report back. They apply social pressure on the manipulator's behalf. Some believe the story completely. Others are manipulated themselves, positioned as caring friends just trying to help, while actually functioning as surveillance and enforcement. The flying monkey network transforms a personal conflict into a distributed. The stated objective of the smear campaign is your discrediting. The secondary objective, equally important and often more damaging, is your social isolation. When your support network is confused or actively turned against you, you have no one to process with, no one to validate your experience, no one to help you stabilize. Isolation is not a side effect of the smear campaign. When the campaign enters your professional life, the stakes escalate significantly. A comment to a colleague, a message to your manager framed as concern, a social media post your workplace contacts can see. The professional smear is effective because it introduces your most personal struggles into a space where you are evaluated on stability and competence. Defending yourself at work requires disclosing things you would never choose to disclose. When the campaign reaches your family of origin, the damage is qualitatively different. These are the people who shaped you, hold your earliest history, and cannot be replaced. A smear campaign aimed at your family is designed to create estrangement where there should be refuge, to ensure the place you would normally turn for unconditional support has already been seeded with doubt. It is a scorch and isolate strategy applied to. The digital dimension of the smear campaign operates at scale, leaves permanent records, and reaches audiences neither party has ever met. Vague posting, subtweets, one-sided emotional disclosures, coordinated mass reporting. Each mechanism creates a public narrative the target cannot address without amplifying it. Online audiences only know the story they encountered first, and digital content compounds, each share extending the reach of a narrative built to destroy your credibility without ever. In some cases, the smear campaign incorporates legal instruments as publicity tools. False reports filed with police, protective orders sought not for safety but for the social proof of their existence, fabricated harassment claims, custody narratives designed for their PR value rather than legal merit. Legal abuse is especially damaging because institutions carry legitimacy, personal accusations lack. A police report in the public record carries weight that a social media. The smear campaign works for reasons rooted in social psychology. First mover advantage shapes how all later information is processed. Social proof, the fact that multiple people believe something, makes it feel credible to those who hear it secondhand. The victim narrative triggers empathy before analysis, and the halo effect means someone presenting as warm, calm, and wounded gets perceived as credible by default. When you hear what is being said about you, every instinct says, correct it, explain, give people the context they need to see the truth. This is human and understandable, but in the context of a smear campaign, public self-defense almost always makes things worse. It requires engaging with their narrative, which amplifies it. It signals emotional activation, confirming their characterization of you as volatile. Not everyone believes the smear. What the campaign does is sort your social network. Those who believe it completely and defect, those who reserve judgment and watch, and those who recognize the pattern and reach out to you directly. That third group, small, often quiet, is your real network. The smear campaign is, in an awful way, a filter. It reveals which people in your life evaluate information. The narcissist cannot sustain their performance indefinitely. The mask that presents as wounded and reasonable requires enormous energy. Energy eventually redirected toward the next target. And when that redirect happens, people notice. The person described as dangerous has moved on quietly. The person described as the victim has found a new one. Time does not fix everything, but it reveals character, including the character of the person who. One of the most painful aspects of the smear campaign is watching people who know you well still struggle to disbelieve it. If someone has known the manipulator for years and held them in positive regard, accepting that this person ran a calculated campaign requires dismantling a long-held belief. The brain resists that. It keeps both things partially true. The phrase, "maybe there is something to both sides," is losing people to the smear campaign is a specific grief without a widely recognized name. These people are not dead. They simply chose a narrative over your reality. They are technically present but functionally gone from your life because of a story you could not enter the room to contest. This grief is complicated by injustice, disbelief, and the desire to fix it. It deserves the same weight and processing. The urge to correct the record is one of the strongest impulses you will face. You have evidence, you have context, you have the truth, and you are watching people you love believe a constructed story. The temptation to reach out, clarify, send the screenshots comes from the most reasonable place, but acting on it keeps you entangled in their ecosystem, burns energy you need for rebuilding, and no contact is not only about avoiding the person, it extends to their narrative. You do not have to respond to every flying monkey message. You do not have to correct every public distortion. No contact with the narrative means withdrawing your energy from the story entirely, not reading what is being said, not drafting the rebuttal, not composing the response you never send. Every calorie spent engaging with their. Even if you have no immediate intention to use it legally, documentation protects you in ways that become clear only later. Save messages, screenshot dates, record the sequence of events, who said what, when, to whom. Keep records of false reports or formal accusations, however absurd they seem. Do this once, systematically, then set it aside. Your documented record is an anchor against gaslighting that tells you the campaign. The people genuinely in your corner will reach out quietly and directly. They will not post about it or make your situation their performance. They will call you. They will say, "I heard something, and I wanted to hear your side." They will sit with ambiguity without requiring you to perform distress before extending care. These people are rare. In the aftermath of a smear campaign, you may count them. Research on reputation and trust recovery shows something consistent. People who respond to false characterization by living authentically, without desperate defense, without counter campaigns, without public theater, tend to have their reputations recover within 1 to 3 years. The mechanism is simple. Real behavior over time produces real evidence, and real evidence eventually overrides constructed narrative. The smear campaign is a sprint. Authentic living is a marathon. Some smear campaigns cross into legally actionable territory. Defamation requires false statements of fact, not opinion, communicated to third parties causing demonstrable harm. False reports to police or child protective services may be prosecutable. Harassment through third parties may fall under stalking statutes. The threshold is high and the process is slow, but knowing when a social conflict becomes a legal one matters. The hardest part of surviving a smear campaign is this: you cannot wait for external vindication before rebuilding your sense of self. The validation may come. The people who left may return. The campaign may collapse. But waiting for those things means placing the timeline of your healing in the hands of the person who damaged you. The inner work. Rebuilding identity from the inside out without an audience. Every time you engage with their narrative, calling someone to defend yourself, checking what they are posting, drafting the message you never send, You are operating inside their constructed reality. The pattern interrupt is simple to describe and genuinely hard to execute. Stop. Withdraw your attention from their story. Direct it toward your life, your work, your relationships, your future. This is not denial. Your narrative does not need to be a point-by-point rebuttal of theirs. The most powerful move is to tell your own story, consistently, authentically, without desperation. Not as a campaign, not as a correction, just as the real account of your real experience offered to people genuinely interested in your reality. Authenticity, over time, creates a record, and no amount of retroactive smearing can credibly erase a record that. Here is what actually happens over time to the person who ran the campaign. They find a new target. The same patterns emerge. The people who believed them once start noticing the similarities. Flying monkeys begin comparing notes. And the people who once doubted you start recognizing the design. Not all of them, not immediately, but enough. Truth rarely arrives dramatically. It often arrives as a quiet message. I should. The smear campaign is not a reflection of who you are. It is a map of what they feared you would tell people, and how far they were willing to go to ensure nobody believed you first. If this episode gave you language for something you have been living, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe to Deception Circuit. Understanding these systems is not just survival.